السلام عليكم. يعطيكم العافية جميعا. I just want to make sure if my voice is clear and the screen as well. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. Bakkah Learning is a company in training field with a team of highly qualified, certified experts in the spectrum of business. Learners will be supported all the way in their journey to achieve professionalism and better opportunities in life. We make sure that learning services we provide are carefully chosen and aligned with today's business world. Therefore, our development team works around the clock to employ exclusive partnerships in designing a collection of internationally accredited courses in various fields, such as project management, human resources, and business analysis. Of all the learning hubs, Bakkah is the trustworthy one, thanks to our global exclusive partnerships with different accreditation bodies, such as PMI, Accredited, and others. We have been blessed with supportive clients who usually leave upbeat comments about the courses they attended at Bakkah and talk well about the quality of our material, the professionalism of our instructors, and the assistance which added up to their experience here. Since establishment, Bakkah has successfully coordinated with more than 1,000 learning sessions, maintained effective engagement of more than 600 clients, helped in building more than 20,000 capabilities, and bridged more than 300 success partnerships. None of this would have been possible without the efforts of our dedicated instructors, which are more than 80. Why should you choose Bakkah as your learning hub? We provide courses, a set of various in business fields. As we mentioned before, since our monitoring process is learner-centered, we make sure the delivery method suits your availability. That's why we have live online, self-paced, and in-house training options. Our core attention is to prepare you by all means to pass the actual exam from the first try through the exam preparation course, exam simulators, and revision questions. Because our relationship with you is special, and we want to make it more by giving you back. Enjoy a special discount on all human resources courses. You can share it with friends and colleagues and enjoy the offer together. Thank you so much all for listening. Thank you so much, Mr. Mohammed. The floor is yours. I will stop sharing my content.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum everyone, and welcome to our today's session. I would like to get your feedback on the voice. Is the voice clear?
Yes, very clear, Mr. Mohammed.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm happy to be with you today to explore some the journey of the HR certification preparation courses overall. So what we will do today is actually taking you through different kinds of HR fields in order to let you get or set the expectation for what you will get when you get enrolled in an HR certification preparation course. So actually, we will go through different sections of HR divisions overall. We will cover HR operations, then we will move to recruitment and selection. After that, we will move to the compensation and benefit, human resources development and retention, employee relations, and then we will cover the health, safety, and security. So all these parts are parts of the HR preparation courses. So for sure, we will not be covering the body of knowledge overall, but it is only to set the expectation, and we will give you a good amount of knowledge so that you can expect what to get when you are enrolled in a session like this. I will start by, I just want to ensure that my screen is showing to you. The introduction slide is there.
Yes, the introduction slide.
Perfect. So a little introduction about myself. I am Mohammed Najjar. I'm certified SHRM SCP and Google Data Analytics and Project Management Certificate. And I have PHRI certification. My education is in the field of banking and finance. I have more than 15 years of experience in different fields of human resources and organization development. I hope I can take you through this journey with the body of it and with my experience to make it helpful and useful for you, starting from now and for the coming almost 3 hours. After like an hour and a half, we will have a break of 10 minutes, and then we will continue with our body of knowledge. You can write your questions and your feedback through the chat, and I will check that from every section or every part, and I will check the repeated questions I'll try to cover. For sure, the time will not help us to take all the questions and answer all the comments, but I will try my best to cover the maximum possible out of the coming questions. So starting from human resources operations. HR operations is actually, the HR operations and the talent acquisition or the recruitment and selection are the major parts of the HR certification preparation courses. And usually they have the maximum grades in the exam. So the knowledge you get from these two modules is very important, is very relative, and I hope you can take whatever we talk about and link it with what you are experiencing wherever you are, as you are an HR practitioner working in an HR department, or if you are an employee who gets the HR services and preparing to be part of HR department or HR team in your organization. So HR, starting from HR role in the role development through the years, and how the human resources department moved from being just a department to help the business in managing the personnel activities to be a part of the strategic decision in the company. So back in 1920s and 1940s, HR was only the department which have 50% of administration work in his overall basket, and 30% of operational work, while the strategic part, where the HR was part of the decision making with the business, was only 20%. And we are talking 20%, to be honest, with in the major or the big companies. In the most of the small and medium companies, the HR department was only doing the operational and administration part of arranging the workplace, the employees' services. But with time, all the organizations and businesses realized that human resources is a major of the organization, and they are actually who's taking the organization towards reaching their objectives. So involving human resources in all our decisions and knowing our capabilities, knowing our talent gaps, knowing our expectations from human resources is very crucial to take any decision and to build our future decisions in the company. So by the time the role of HR is increased as a strategic partner for the business. So we are talking now about 60% of the HR role as a strategic partner in the business. And we will discuss in details when we go to the full course about what is the strategic role and how this role will be implemented. And you can discover that in different levels. So as long as you go with the APHRI and then PHRI and then SPHRI, you more deep knowledge about what is the strategic role of HR. For sure, whenever you go to higher strategic level of certification, you will get more details about the strategic role of HR. So what are the HR functions? Let's say the universal HR functions around the companies around the world. Usually in the companies, you will find under human resources functions, the staffing, the performance evaluation, the compensation and benefit, training and development, employee relations, safety, health and security, and HR research. Most of the topics will be covered today in general, for sure. And you can go through any of these topics in the further certification preparation, and we can go in much details in the certification preparation courses. So one of the major topics in the HR preparation in the HR operations is creating our strategy. So we need to identify to understand and identify and recognize what is the strategy of the organization, how the strategy of the organization is developed, and what are the steps of developing a strategy overall. So when we say strategy as a definition, so what is a strategy? Strategy is a long-term plan. So if I'm planning for next week, next month, this is a short-term plan. So I put my plans for short-term in order to achieve a long-term plan. And this is what we call a strategy. So in order to formulate a strategy, what we need to know in any organization or in any department, in order to formulate their strategy, they start with identifying the mission and the objectives. Even if you are a human resources department and you need to formulate your strategy, you need to start from your department mission and objectives. While there is a mission and objective for the company, there is a mission and objective for every person and for every department. You need to know what is your mission and what is your objective. So as you all know, the mission is something why you are there for. So the mission is the idea of why you are available, why you are doing your business, and what is that you need to achieve. And the objectives is the details of the goals you need to achieve. And usually these goals should be SMART goals. And it's a very common, term, SMART goal, which is the characteristics of the goals and objectives you need to reach. So in order to go further and take the mission and objectives to further step, you identify your objectives, you identify your mission, and then you do your SWOT analysis. And SWOT analysis is a very common, universally, it's a very, efficient and very useful tool to take your mission and objectives and analyze these in comparison to what you have, in comparison to your situation. So now I know where I want to reach. I need to know where I am now comparing to where I want to reach. So in order to know your situation, you need to do something named SWOT analysis. So SWOT is actually covering two parts: internal analysis and external. So internal, within your department or within your company, within the place you do the strategy for, you discover the S and W from SWOT, which is the strengths and weaknesses. So you need to know what are your internal strengths and weaknesses. So when you know your strengths and weaknesses, you know internally what are the factors which makes you better than others, and what are the factors which you need to improve and which you need to consider as a risk inside the company. Now, going outside, checking the environment, doing the survey of the environment and checking the market, you need to identify the other two parts from the SWOT analysis, which is the O and T, which is the opportunities and threats. always in the market or in the outside the place where you are doing the strategy, there is opportunities to enhance, there is opportunities to take advantage of, and there is the threats you need to consider to avoid so that it will not affect your business. You take all this, considering your objectives and mission, and doing the SWOT analysis, which includes the strength, weaknesses, and opportunities and threats, and then you formulate your strategy. After your strategy is formulated, you do the implementation of the strategy. The strategy may take up to 3 to 5 years, so it is based on the length of the strategy you develop. And then after you implement your strategy down the road, while you are implementing your strategy, you do evaluation and you monitor the results. So you check your progress towards your objectives, and then you see if your strategy is working or not, if you need to do a modification, if you need to do a change in your the way some parts of the strategy and the tools you use to achieve your objectives. So we talked about mission, and we always, whenever we go to a website of a company or when we work in a company, we saw logos and words of the company mission, vision, and values. And these are 3 terms related to the strategy of the company. So it is linked to the organization strategy. So it is actually the base of the organization strategy, as we discussed. So what is mission, what is vision, and what is values? The mission is the company reason of existence, as we said. So the mission explains what is the add value I will add as a service or as a product. What is the thing which I'm doing as a business? So as example, Google's mission is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. This is their mission. This is what they are doing. This is what they are expected to deliver. The mission, on the other hand, is what we expect or what we dream to have as the best thing to describe our business in future. So what is the future if I'm talking about my successful as an organization? How I see myself reach to the successful? What is my future vision of the organization? So when I say vision, it describes the future of the company as successful organization. As example, SABIC's vision is to be the preferred world leader in chemicals. So this is something you want to be or you aim to reach. Now the values, while you are doing your mission and dreaming and trying to reach your vision, you need to put ethics and you need to put beliefs in your mind, which put limits to your activities, to your behaviors. It is always stays in your mind, remind you that this is the way we perform, this is the way we behave in the company. So these beliefs are the values. So whenever I have values in a company, that is something I need to live with. That's something I need to keep in my mind while I'm doing my day-to-day activities, while I'm dealing with other colleagues, with other employees, with vendors, with suppliers, with anyone around the organization. So the values is what I need to keep in mind. As example of values, we have teamwork, commitment, innovation, integrity, successful, one team. A lot of organizations, you can have different kind of values, and you need to know that always the values reflects what is the organization's trend, where is their focus. As example, whenever you see innovation, whenever you see kind of futuristic kind of values, so this organization is more into development, more into research. Whenever you see success, customer centricity, and all these things, you think about more service and operational kind of organizations. So it should be linked to the kind of work you are doing. Now the organizational culture. What is the difference between the organizational culture and the values? The organizational culture defines how you live the values. So what is the culture in the organization? And when we say culture, it's practices. It is the way we do the exercises day to day, considering the values in our mind. Now, the values is our barriers, it's our control things in our mind. But the organization culture is how we do the day-to-day behavior and communication and considering the values in our minds. So it defines the basic organizational values and communicates to new members the correct way to think and act and how things should be done. As example, when I say in my organization, the organization culture is sharing knowledge. That means whenever you join our organization and somebody within from the organization is asking you to help and share a knowledge in some part, it's the organizational culture that we share our knowledge. So it is expected, and you will know since you joined the company, that this is a company where the knowledge sharing is a culture. As example, open door policy is a culture. Being friendly and talking in a non-formal way most of the time is a culture. Being honest is a culture, but being honest to the maximum, to the way that you are, there is no doubt that you are talking frankly and that you are talking whatever you are thinking about. It's the culture. So the value is being honest, but the culture is how you perform this value. What is the benefit of having a culture? So whenever there is a culture in any company, it enhances the stability of the organization for sure, because having a culture, that means they do the same way, the same behavior, and you expect their behavior. So they are stable. They know how they are dealing with each other and what is the behavior they are dealing with. It helps the members to interpret the organization activities and events. So they will understand whenever there is activity or event, what is to expect in this event? What is the link of this event to our culture? It provides the members with a sense of identity. You always see that employees of a big companies like Google, Microsoft, SABIC, and other companies, you feel that they have their own identity. They know they have their own culture, and they are proud of that whatever they live inside their organization is unique, is something related to them. So having a culture helpful in having your identity, and it generates within the people inside the company a commitment to the beliefs and the values. Now, staying with the organizational strategy, there is an important function which affects the organizational strategy, which is the corporate governance. So corporate governance comes hand in hand with HR management to manage the overall behavior, strategy, and the way the employees are dealing with each other. So what is the corporate governance? How we do the corporate governance? The corporate governance is the system which the organization is administered and directed and controlled by. So what is the system and what is the rules? What is do's, not to do? What is the broad and high level corporate level rules, which manages every activity? And we can refer to this kind of governance to decide whether our act or our behavior is correct or not. What is the violation or penalty for this act, and what should be the correct act in this organization? So the corporate governance, it includes the following principles. It is built on compliance. So compliance means I have rules, I have expectations, I have kind of what is your rights and what is your duties. And then if you did not do that well, if you violated that, or if you have a case in your department or between the owners or between anyone which has a rights and the duties inside the organization, now the compliance comes to identify that who is complying and who is not complying with the expectation. The integrity and ethical behavior. So every organization should have a code of conduct which identifies which of their behaviors is ethical and which is not ethical. Because the ethics around the organization and different organization and different around the world is not a fixed thing. It is actually based on your kind of business. It's based on your kind of commitment, your kind of criticality. So you identify what is the ethics and what is the unethical behaviors and how you actually deal with unethical behaviors. And whenever you have this code of conduct, everything will be defined, everything will be clear, and the business conduct will be clear and identified to everyone, and it will help organization to take decisions accordingly. The rights and responsibilities. So the corporate governance function, it identifies the rights and responsibilities to every part of the organization, starting from the head, the owners, the board of directors, reaching to the directors, managers, and employees everywhere. So they should have this function should have the contracts, the code of the ethical codes, and all the rules which identifies the rights and responsibilities to all the parts, the interests of the stakeholders. So for sure, part of the corporate governance is to know what are the interests and what are the the contractual rights and the responsibilities of the owners of the organization. Okay, let me use this pointer, and the last function of the last role of the corporate governance is the oversight and control. So there should be a party in the organization which do the oversight and control, which monitor the compliance of all the parties with the code of conduct, with the roles and responsibilities, and to decide and to notify all the parties where they need to correct and return back to the track in order to be as expected in these roles. Now, as we are working in human resources, and as we discussed that HR has a strategic role as a business partner, we need to understand the language of other departments. So it's not enough to know HR. You need to know other functions. You need to know their language. So it's good to know about major functions in the organization. And for sure, whenever you are enrolled in the long preparation course, we will discuss all the functions overall, but we focused here on one of the most important ones, which is the finance and accounting. So in order to understand the the pain of the organization or their success, in order to speak the language of business, you need to know and understand the main reports issued by the finance departments. There's 3 major reports usually being used and issued by any finance department, which is the balance sheet, the income statement, and the statement of cash flow. So we just need to know, we just need to understand what are these reports for and what it reflects. Balance sheet is actually the report which shows 3 main components of any organization. So the balance sheet have 2 sides. The left side usually has the assets, and assets means whatever included in this organization, whatever have value in the organization. It includes the machinery, the facility, the patterns, the balance of the banks, and the whatever have values in the organization is an asset. It could be a very liquid assets like the money in the banks, and could be an asset like a machinery, a building. So all of these are assets. On the other side, on the right side, we need to know the value of these assets, from where it came. So usually the money and the support or the value of the assets comes from 2 resources. Even it is an liabilities. So liabilities means I got a loan from a bank, I got a support. There is a money which is due to some vendor who gave me a machinery, and I'm still paying the price of the machinery. So the other part, which is the rights part, the liabilities, it has the liabilities, and also it has the money which is paid by the owners of the organization. So whenever the organization started, the owners came and they paid their equity. So the equity is the amount paid by the owners. And the major formula, which is very well known in the finance function, that usually the assets should equal the sum of the liabilities and equity. And it does make sense because your assets and the value of your assets comes even from the owners or from the loans or from the liabilities you have to others inside the organization. So this is the balance sheet. The income statement now, it includes the sales minus expenses. So the income statements shows your sales number of as whatever the value of the sales which you are doing. So sales of products, sales of services, whatever the sales you are doing in inside your business. And in order to know the net income, you need to reduce the expenses which costs you to reach this sales. So sales minus expenses, it will give you the net income. So this is the income statement. It shows you the three parts. Now the statement of cash flow. The statement of cash flow, it actually shows not only the sales and costs, it actually shows the sales whenever the money is received and the cash is paid, whenever the value is paid to the organization. That means the of cash flow is actually measures the cash flow only, not the sales overall. As example, I may do a sales of 100. The value of my sales could be paid over a year. So they may do that on installments, and they may pay me 50% when we do the deal, and then the other 50% on 12 months on installments. So in the statement of cash flow, what I will see is the 50% which is paid to the company. So it shows you what cash do you have actually, not what sales have you done, because I could, on papers, maybe I am a very successful organization when you see the income statement, but when you go to check the cash, you could find a problems where I do deals, I do sales, but I give a lot of credit to the people that they will pay in a long terms. And a lot of organizations, to be honest, had a big crash and problems and even bankruptcy because they did not manage their cash properly. So you will find a very good numbers in the net income, but when you go to the cash flow, it was a very difficult situation. Now, as I said, finance is part of the different functions, and other functions are there, and we will discuss that whenever you are enrolled in a long, preparation session. Now, moving to very important topic, which is the HR policies. Policies, you always hear about that in every organization, the policies there. It's actually not only HR policies. So policies are there for a lot of aspects, a lot of reasons, but we are now talking about the HR policies. So what is the policy? The policy is a guide. So usually we have guide whenever you use new thing, whenever you start a new thing. So whenever you join an organization, you need to get a guide. So it's a guide of it guides the actions inside the organization towards achieving the objectives. Now, everyone in the organization is working towards achieving the objectives. If we don't have policies, it will be very harsh for the people to go towards achieving the goals. Why? Because employees will try their best to by default, if they are not controlled, if there is no policy, some of them will start not doing or not performing ethically or not performing with the expected performance. So having the policies will set the expectation, will guide them. So in case of an action, in case if they need to have a leave, if they need to do promotion to someone, if they need to change their career. So there is a policy to let them know how they will deal with that. On the other side, there is the management, which takes the organization toward their objectives. While you are moving towards the objectives in the operations, you may have the people doing over efforts. You may have the people less compensated. So there could be a lot of issues while taking the organization toward your goals and objectives if there is no policies. So the policies will help to make standards, okay? So there is expectation and there is standards. Why we have policies? As we said, it is to reassure employees that they will be treated fairly and objectively. So always there is a policy which which manages the situations in a fair and stable situation. It is helping the managers as well to rapidly and constantly take decisions. So it will not be a personal thing taking a decision in a situation. There is a policy which I can refer to, and I can take decision easily whenever the request or the case came within the policy. It gives the managers the confidence to resolve problems and defend their decisions. So whenever I have a problem, I can take decision as per the policy, and I will not be afraid of taking the decision. Or no one will point me that I'm doing something personal or I'm taking personal decisions. No, because there is a policy which is actually I'm referring to. So an important question you need to consider in your mind. So who formed the policy? Usually, who forms the policy? As per the body of knowledge of HRCI, such a question can be part of the exam as well, which is the top level managers after taking their inputs from their supervisors, the people working in the floor, they actually is the main source of making the policies. So HR is for sure a major part, but who comes with the situations? Who comes with the feedback? So actually the top level managers, and they come with the inputs from their supervisors who are involved in the administration work. The policy manual is actually the document which has all the policies issued in a company. It's a long document. It has all the kind of policies issued in a company with a full details, with the signatures, with all the things. So it is make it a more employee friendly. So we create something named employee handbook. So a summary of the policy manual. It is written in the company language and the company theme, the way which is more friendly, more readable for the employees. It has only the things related to these people. So this is the difference between the policy manuals and employee handbooks. Some companies, some small companies, or some companies actually, they do not have two, like something named a policy manual and another thing named employee handbook. They do it as a one-time, so they share their policy manual itself with the employees. Some other organizations takes this to make it more employee friendly, and it summarizes the information overall. In the HR matrix, moving to a very important topic, the HR analytics overall is actually using the value of the data. So whenever you are in an organization, in the human resources department, you have a lot of data. You have the employees' data, you have their compensation data, their benefits, their performance data. So all this is power. Data is power everywhere. So whenever you have data, you can build a lot of ratios, a lot of metrics. And this data and these ratios can give you indicators of the performance of an organization. So in order to understand the HR metrics, you need to know the concept of the benchmarking. So no number by itself, the ratios and the numbers will not make sense if you are just calculating a number, calculating a ratio. If you cannot compare it to a benchmark, it does not have any value. It will not help. You are just having a data. In order to move the data to information, to a helpful information, you do a benchmark. So what is benchmark? Benchmark is actually comparing your numbers to others in the market, in a similar business, maybe others in a similar in different countries with a similar function. Maybe you compare yourself to year back or 2 years back. So you should have a standard so that you compare your progress towards that standard. So these HR matrices is part of the matrices which you can learn in the journey towards reaching the HR certification, starting from the revenue factor. So the revenue factor, when we say the factor, that means it is a ratio, it's a part of a whole. So revenue factor is something you compare to another, to another organizations. So what is the revenue factor? It is the division of the revenue on the total number of FTEs. So whenever you see FTEs, it is full-time employee, okay? So in order to calculate the revenue factor, you take the revenue, and revenue refers to the sales of the organization. So you take the revenue and you divide that on the total number of employees inside the organization, and you get a factor. The factor reflects a value by itself. It will not mean anything, but when you compare this value to the benchmark or the average of the market, you know that your people, the people inside your organization, are profitable or not. So what does that mean? So whenever you divide the revenue on the total number of FTEs, you will get a virtual factor tells you that every employee generates revenue by this amount. As example, if I have a revenue of $1,000 and you have 10 employees, so you divide that $1,000 on 10 employees, that means every employee is generating me $100 revenue. So it's just an indicator, a factor to know virtually. It's not actually every employee is actually generating $100. It's actually on numbers, on factors, so that you can compare with other companies or with the standard of the market to know, are your people profitable or you have high cost of people? That means they are not generating as expected revenue, and you have much you need maybe to reduce. Revenue per labor cost. So instead of dividing the revenue on the total number, you can divide that on the labor cost, so that you can understand that every dollar of expenses I pay for the labor, for the employees, how much revenue I will get. And it is the same concept. It's a factor you need to compare with the business. And as you see, there's a lot of other factors: HR expenses factors, absence rate, turnover rate, cost per hire. It's different kind of rates. I will not go and discuss one by one. We will for sure discuss this in details whenever we cover that in much detailed one. But the concept of using the data and make it ratios, make it use it as HR metrics to compare yourself with other organizations, to compare yourself with other, with yourself year back, as example. I think I'm reaching to the reporting and presentation part, but I need to see if any repeated questions here.
Mr. Muhammad, we have a question in the Q&A section, the answered section, and we are having some technical issues in the chat box, so قاعدين نحاول نحلها بإذن الله وراح تنحل خلال دقائق.
Okay, sure. So what is the thank you, Nidar, thank you so much. What is the difference between Hrbb and strategic HR management? I got a question from one of the attendees. So Hrbb is, strategic HR management is related to the HR itself. Now, whenever you are strategic, you are prepared to be as HR business partner. Now, it is actually leads to the other. If I have an organization where the human resources department is actually just doing the administrative work, here they are very good in operations, but the people, they cannot understand the finance language, as example. They cannot understand the commercial department language. When they talk about the balance sheet, when the commercial departments talk about the deals and the situation of the organization, they cannot understand the strategy of the organization. So you cannot depend on the HR in this case as Hrbb. So Hrbb reflects HR business partner. So whenever the HR strategic management is there, whenever the HR is actually doing their job based on the SWOT analysis, which we discussed, which reflects considering the threats and considering the opportunities available in the market, and knowing your strengths and weaknesses. In this case, the organization and the management will consider dealing with HR as HR business partner. So it is actually one leading to another. I hope this helped. Continuing on a very important part here, which is the reporting and presentation techniques in the HR. And actually, these are techniques of doing storytelling and presentation in data analytics generally, not only in HR. So whenever you have data, whenever you have this valuable source of data, you can plot, you can present this information to the management in different ways. And the way you present the information, it makes a lot of difference. So whenever you have some data and you plot this or you put this in a wrong chart, in a wrong way, it will not help the organization or the decision maker, or maybe it will take him to take a wrong decision if you are actually presenting the data in a wrong way. So this is an idea of what to use based on the kind of data you have. Starting from a very well-known kind of two charts, which is used everywhere almost, the histogram and the column chart. So the histogram and column chart, they look similar. The only difference that the histogram is actually used intervals. So when you think about performance management and you have scores of people out of 100. So if you want to reflect the score of the people in intervals, that means I will put how many people achieved score between 30 and 40. So this is an interval. So if you want to show intervals, that means this reflects the chart here in a histogram reflects how many people. So how many people achieved a score in their performance between 30 and 40? How many people in the other interval between 40 and 50? And here it shows me, this chart as example, shows me that most of my people achieved in their performance between 70 and 80, which is a good indicator of a good performance overall. Now, this which is as also another indicator. So the histogram shows the range of data in intervals, while the column chart is actually comparing variables. So it actually compares value to value, department to department. So it compares variables by plotting categorical data. As example, it shows here the job longevity in different departments. So we took the first department and we checked the average people, how long they stay in their job. And, sorry. And then we compare it to department 2, department 3, department 4. So it's not actually an interval, it's a value here. So we have average per department. So we have variable related to one department comparing to variable related to another department and so on. So this is the column chart. Actually the same concept of bar chart, but we use the same concept of column chart, but we use the bar chart whenever we have a negative values. So as example, here it shows the change in numbers in widgets production. I will tell the concept. Now, let's consider that the zero or the median here, it shows the exact production. So whenever there is extra production, you are comparing the extra production in different cities. And if you are lacking the production or producing less than what is expected, it should be in minus. So in order to show plus minus, positive, negative, you use the bar chart. Whenever there is values where could be positive value or negative value. So that example, in the day shift, in the San Jose department, they have less or in the minus value. So they produced less than expected. While in Cleveland, they produced higher than that. So whenever you need to compare negative, positive values, you use the bar chart. Now the pie chart, which is also a very well-known chart used in a very, different cases. It is actually, the pie chart shows a part of a whole. Whenever there is a share of a whole, you use the pie chart. So as example, you have here the management of one organization, it has different races. So it have people from Native America, it has people from the white race and different kind of races. So in order to reflect the pie chart of the management, so it is all together the management. Let's say there is 100, so the whole 10 is the whole pie, and the percentage is part of this pie. Let's take another example. If we say that in our organization, we have male employees and female employees. Now, the total number of the employees is 500, which is the full pie. Let's say that 300 of them are females and 200 are males. So you have a pie which has the whole 500, and it is parted to two parts. So it's like 60 or 70% as a male, or 30 and 35% as female and male. So you put the pie chart as a part of a whole to reflect or to describe a situation. The line graph is actually used to show trends. So how the progress over time moves. As example, if you have an organization and you want to show the sales over time, how the progress is moving. Am I getting better sales over time? So you show a series of time, and then you show the number of sales moving toward against the time. Now, the dual axis chart is whenever you use two kinds of charts together in one slide or in one presentation, where it shows a comparison of two things, how something leading to another. And this chart shows the training, the safety training comparing to the accidents. So it is very clearly and nicely shows that whenever the number of people got the safety training is increasing, the other side, the accidents per month is decreasing. So over time, it shows that the effect of the training to reduce the accidents in an organization. Now, the Gantt chart is a very well-known chart in the project management field. So whenever you have a project you are managing, it has a separate tasks. This on the chart, how long it will take to do the tasks. And you see, whenever there is a task starts when another task ends, it shows that maybe there is a relationship, or it depends that the first task should end to give the opportunity for the second task to start. So this is the Gantt chart, and it is used for the project management kind of plotting the job plan, the project plan in the in this chart. In the HR information system, actually having all the data and having a lot of inputs related to the employees, working on their training need analysis, planning the recruitment and what are the competencies and the future plans, it requires digitization. It requires a system to help you to do this in a very efficient way. So the concept of HRIS, Human Resources Information System, is now very common, and it is actually much less of organizations now are still living without HRIS. While the HRIS features differs from an organization to another, is managed through systems, and some other organizations have only used some modules of the HRIS. So I need you also to be familiarized with the concept of ERP. So Enterprise Resources Planning System. So the HRIS actually usually is a part of the organization. Is the big system which is used by the whole organization to manage their resources. So when we say resources, it is actually people are resources, products or material for products are resources, machinery are resources. A lot of things inside the organization are resources. So usually the resource planning system, or the enterprise resource planning, the ERP, and the HRIS is part of the same concept. So what is the major use of the HRIS? Usually we use the HRIS in our HR planning we can anticipate the replacements, the promotions. It helps in diversity reports. It shows you flags when there is an issue of diversity. And diversity, it could reflect many of things. As example, diversity, it could be related to gender, to nationality, to knowledge bank, to a lot of information. So whenever you have your system organized, available, the reports comes from the system. It helps you to control the diversity. For sure, the compensation reports. So the system helps a lot in managing the compensation inside the organization, and knowing the organization average, the compensation. And when I say compensation, and we will discuss this in details, it reflects the salaries and the payments is being paid to the employees, the benefits, whatever you give the employees as a compensation for their work. The system will help you to have a report on that, to know the trends and to check the average in every department. The personnel research, for sure, personnel, everything related to personnel, their leaves, their absenteeism, their violations, all will be there on the HRIS. The training needs an assessment, and you will be surprised with what system can do. Whenever you identify the jobs inside your organization, and you identify what kind of competencies you need to perform a job, and then you give a system the performance report of the people inside your organization, the system will give you who are the best fit of the jobs, and it will give you an indicator of what are the competencies and the knowledge area you need, expectation with the performance, with the actual competency bank you have. In the communication part, and as a communication is a very crucial part of the HR role in an organization, you need to know the different kind of the communication techniques. The human resources department use different kinds of tools to do their communication. And communication, it could be a communication for individual employee, it could be a communication for a group, could be to inform the people about a new change, to inform the people about new policy, an event, a movement, a new project coming to the company. So the communication is needed in a lot of steps, communicating with people and letting them know what's going on. So what are the usually tools in the communication? The written memos. So written memo is something like a letter written as a memo directly delivered to the employee. Bulletin boards, which is the bulletin boards or the advertising boards available in the organization, usually in the entrance of a building or in the place in every messages. For sure, the email is now a very common tool of communication. The voicemail messages, you may get a voicemail message. As example, in some organizations, if there is a very important occasion like Eid as example, and the CEO wants to send his voice as he is celebrating and giving the blessing to the employees and saying that Eid Mubarak, hope you are. He may record his voice and send it as a voicemail to the employees of the organization. The newsletter, some companies are issuing a newsletter on monthly basis or on annually. It shows also a communication tool to the employees. Now, out of all this, we have two commonly used tools, which is clear why. The email and the voicemail messages is a very commonly used tools because it can be sent to a list of people in one click. It is easy to send to the people. Send one. You need to send one by one. You need to print one by one, and if you want to modify, it will take more It will not be possible, actually. Now, one of the disadvantages of using this rapidly using this kind of communication tools recently is that people started to get used that there is a lot of emails being received from the HR or from the organization, and because of the high volume of the communication, they started to lose the interest, the kind of information inside this communication. So we need to this kind of easy communication tools. It will not overwhelm the people. It will not increase the kind of communication so that people will not be interested to read more of these repeated emails. Moving to the other module, I need to see if I think I have one more question here. What are the technical skills needed for HR professional? Thank you for the question. And actually, this is a very general question. It's not easy to answer such a question. And when we are talking about HR professional is expected to know all the areas which we are discussing about. You need to know the body of knowledge of human resources. You need to get certified. You need to be professional in your job. You need to have a sense of financial acumen. So understanding the concept of the business. You need to have an analytical skills. And to be honest, being skills is a base. Okay, so whenever you know how to communicate with people, whenever you know what kind of communication is important, what area or where to control your communication, how to put yourself in the shoes of the employee and understand how they are reading your communication, it is very helpful actually to and whenever you know the basics, or you have a good communication skills, you by yourself, you will know that whenever you are in a meeting with a corporate business leaders, you need to speak their language. So whenever you go to a meeting where the chief operation officer is there, the financial officer is there, and we are talking about higher levels of management in HR, you need at least to know the basics of their areas. You need to know their pain areas. You cannot go to a meeting where the company is having a cash flow issues and you are coming up with a new initiative which has a big cost for the company. You need to be aware of what's going on, what's the situation around you. So the SWOT analysis, building your strategy, whatever we are discussing is all crucial toward being professional. And for sure, it is different based on your level. So for sure, you will not be aware of all these things whenever you are starting your career in HR. But knowing that you need to know that, you can start now building your knowledge towards reaching much more and more excellent understanding how the HR professional and how the HR leader should be actually by time. I hope I answered the question, but for sure it's not a specific answer because it's related to where exactly you want to be, and working towards your certification will help a lot in understanding the kind of competencies required towards being an HR professional. So recruitment and selection. Recruitment and selection is the other major function in the organization. Knowing the recruitment and selection needs is very important to the organization. So what is based on what we do the recruitment and selection? We need to know our HR planning, and we need to know our HR plan towards achieving the plan. So after the organization present the workforce has been analyzed, the next step in developing the human resource planning system is to forecast the future employment needs. It's actually, you work on your analysis, you know your objective, and now you know what are your opportunities, what are your weaknesses, and based on that, you know what kind of human resources you need from your organization from to cover some needs, to cover your weaknesses in some places, to prepare yourself for the opportunity coming in the market. So all of this together, building your strategy, it will help you to prepare your HR plan. So what included in the plan? What employees will be needed in the future? What kind of skills and talents will the employees need, and when will it just tells you whenever you come with a with an HR plan, and whenever you do the major 3 questions, what kind of employees we need, how many, let's say you are talking about different kind of functions. You are talking in this function, I need 2 specialists, 3 managers of the new projects in different department, 5 officers or executives who will do the job, and I'm talking about the operational executive kind of job. So you need to identify people you need, and whenever you go to every job, you need to identify and explain what kind of knowledge, skills, and abilities these people should have. And we will discuss in the coming slides when you expect to get these people. So there is a project will start in June of next year. So I need the people to be ready by March, as example. So you need to give a context of the needs of these human resources and when you need these resources to be available. Now to understand the job, preparing yourself to do the recruitment and selection, and actually not only for recruitment and selection, to do the plan for all your HR activities, you need to understand the jobs you are trying to hire for, you are trying to train the employees to be ready for. So how I can know my best candidates, how I identify the training required to reach this kind of good performance of the job. So the first step of doing that is to do the job analysis. And the job analysis is actually understanding the components of the job. So what are the expected performance of the job? What kind of tools are used in the job? What tasks included in the job? Is it exterior or interior job? So all this information you collect together in a job analysis activity, and you use different kind of tools to collect this information. And we will discuss this in much details whenever we go in long, course preparation and how we do the job analysis and what information job analysis. So what is the use of job analysis? It helps in our planning for sure. It helps in the recruitment and selection profiles. It helps in the orientation. So whenever you are presenting the job to the newcomer, to the new employee, of the job, in the evaluation, because when you understand the job, when you understand the performance and the key performance indicators of the job, you can now do the performance evaluation of the people doing the job. And in the compensation for sure. So when you have job analysis for all the job in the organization, now you can compare the job to each other, the jobs to each other, and you can understand which job, based on my strategy, based on my objectives, and which job require higher specialized employees so that I can pay them higher. Building the job description and all the documentation, which we will be discussing in the coming words. So knowing the job component of a job is a very basic information, or it's actually not basic, it's a major and needed information. It's detailed information about the job so that you can build all your future HR practices and the plans. Starting from recruitment and selection, there is always a mix-up between recruitment and selection. Understanding what is recruitment and what is selection. Recruitment is the part where you just, try to attract people and try to show value of your organization and try to identify the pool of candidate for your job. So it starts from formulating your strategy of recruitment, starts to identify which market or which place I can find my expected or potential candidates, and try to give the candidates the feeling that it is valuable for them to apply for these jobs. So it's like attracting the talents available in the market to apply for these jobs, and then doing a very initial screening for the application, from knowing the needs to doing the announcements and creating the employment branding and letting the people be and apply. Until they apply, this is the recruitment. So whenever we have the pool of applicants available, we finish the first phase, which is the recruitment part. Now the selection starts after that. So recruitment is maintaining the pool, and then the selection starts by filtering the pool towards reaching better and better kind of candidates more suitable to the job, until we reach to the best of the best. So in the final steps of the selection, you start to select between more than one person which are suitable to the job, but I need to select now the best out of them. So this is the difference between the recruitment and selection. Recruitment for sure starts with having the plan, and based on the plan, the technical manager or the person who is hiring starts by raising the employee requisition. So we have a creation of the process of the recruitment starts by raising an employee requisition. So it's a formal authorizations to fill a position. So it's now the business or the hiring manager got the approvals and started hiring, and he raised something named a job requisition. What a job requisition could include, and for sure, job requisition could be a form on a paper or a requisition on a get this form. Usually the job requisition will have the type of job which I need, qualifications required, what are the competencies required, when we expect to get replacement for an employee available inside the organization. So this is the job requisition. So the job requisition is raised by the hiring manager as a trigger that the recruitment process started. Now, whenever the recruitment department receives the job requisition, start doing the recruitment, and we have two kinds of resources to hire people. We have the internal resources or the internal recruiting resources and the recruiting resources. The common internal recruiting resources are the job posting, the job bidding, the current employees, and the former employees. What is the difference between job posting and job bidding? And this is a new terms with the body of knowledge which we are discussing, which is also the major part of the longer body of knowledge which you can get access to with the preparation courses. You have a new terms, and these new terms is what will of speaking HR. Now, when you are in a meeting or you are discussing an HR topic, you have a new terminology. You are now speaking universal HR language. So whenever we are talking of HR strategy, mission, vision, values, employee handbook, the job analysis, job description, the strategic partner of role, and much more terms you will learn. So it actually, you need to differentiate between the terms, talking job posting and job bidding. So what is job posting? Job posting is actually whenever there is a new job available, and we are now doing a post for that, an announcement for the people inside the organization to apply for the job. This does mean that the job is available, that we will hire for the job. There is a specific date of selection, and all this is available and announced, and we are now doing job posting. The job bidding, on the other hand, is whenever we have technical kind of jobs and we are allowing people to bid for the job. That it does mean that I can the campaign of job bidding and say, I feel that I am suitable for this job, but maybe this job will not have a vacancy available right now. So job bidding is whenever the employees shows their interest in the job and they know and they believe that they have the competencies and the knowledge and skills and abilities required for the job. So they show their interest and they do the job bidding, and jobs are available. So this is the difference between them. The current employees and former employees, for sure, hiring former employees who left the company recently is considered internal source of hiring, because these employees will have still the knowledge of the organization culture and how the organization is managed, and it is very helpful to employees as a part of your internal recruiting resources. Now, the advantages of the employees, we have their performance records. These employees are familiar with our organization culture, so it's much easy for us to match the candidate with the job, and it is motivating to the current people that we hire internally. Some organizations before they have a policy tells that I will not post any job externally until I post it internally and check if I have suitable people inside my organization. People inside the organization to develop themselves and be ready for the available jobs inside the organization. As we discussed, the job posting is actually the announcement of having a job. What kind of information a job posting will have? It actually has different parts, usually or universally. It starts with identifying the job. So what is the job? What are number of vacancies available? Which department? Is it a managerial level or not? How many people are reportees? To which department? What are the relationship with other departments? And what kind of status, if there is like a grade for the job, all this information can be part of the job identification. Again, when we are discussing the job, the body of knowledge, here it shows the complete set of information. It is different based on the organization you work for, because they will not, it's that you use all the information. It's based on your kind of strategy of the doing the communication. Some organizations shows all the information, reaching to even the level of the salary and what could be the effect. Some other organization will not show that because of for sure it could be because of a valid reason. So the first part is identifying the job, and we are talking now about the job posting. What are the components of the job posting? So the first part will have the job summary is actually 2 or 3 lines, which describes what is the add value, what is the role of the organization. So it just in a brief words shows or tells what could be the responsibilities or the major responsibilities of this role in the organization. Then we go to the other part, which includes the duties and responsibilities overall generally, and we are talking about the more in describing the job, and this is related to the job description. So it will have the duties and responsibilities, and you put the duties and responsibilities, always consider a sequence, which is more professional way of doing that, starting by strategic roles, moving to more operational Okay, everyone, welcome back for our, today's session. We will continue with our journey in the HR, professionalism preparation kind of summary. And for sure, as I explained before, we are taking the major areas of or the major topics just to set the expectation on what you can get while you are preparing towards your HR certification. And we reached to the recruitment and selection section, and we covered the recruitment part. Now we are talking about the selection. Now, at the end of the recruitment process, you will reach to the applicants pool. So you have the major source or the input for the selection process, and then you go through different stages. What we will discuss in this slide is the long selection process, which is explaining all the possible, selection steps or stages in the organizations around the world. But it is usual that it does not reflect all the organizations, because it is not the case in every organization that they do all the stages or the steps. It's based on the need of every organization. So the first stage of the selection is the initial screening. Initial screening, it now go to the pool of candidates. You go and check what is missed, what need to be available. You do an initial evaluation for the applicants. You actually check the applicants comparing to the basic prerequisition of the job. So as example, if you are hiring for someone should be available in a specific location, you disqualify the people who are not available in such location. If you are hiring for, as example, people which should have bachelor degree as a minimum, you disqualify people who does not have bachelor degree. So this kind of initial screening. And as example, if there is people who did not fill the application form, you ask them to fill the application form. If there is resumes or CVs are not updated, you ask for updated CVs in this stage. In the secondary screening, now you take it to the second level of screening or reducing, filtering people towards more suitable people to the job. Now, we will go to the other kind of criteria where I need to identify people who are suitable to the job. So you start doing some testing. So there will be a testing, initial testing, not detailed technical testing. So a kind of testing related to, as example, you will see it as an IQ test or more detailed job-related tests. You may have a calls to check more details for the candidates to know that how suitable are these candidates to the jobs. So you continue by updating the employment applications. You do a screening interview, so you call the candidates, you check their availability, you check their initial knowledge of their profile, their expectations, and you do basic tests. Now in the candidacy major stage of the selection, you do the final assessments now, and you do the interviews. So at this stage, which is the candidacy stage, it includes the job interviews, and it includes the assessment center. And the assessment center is kind of, assessing the candidates, but on a chain of activities to identify the suitable candidates. So the assessment center is actually considered of more than one step of assessing the candidates. So you take a group of candidates, you have a group discussion, take their point of view of something, ask them to present something related to the job, and then have them in a panel interview. So it's like a sequence of steps so that you can get the inputs from all these stages together to identify the most suitable candidate. Whenever people pass the candidacy stage, they go to the verification stage. And the verification stage actually is a recruitment and selection department's task to verify how correct the application is. So they do a verification check for their historical jobs, calling the references which are provided by the candidates, maybe checking the education levels, going the universities if it's required. It's based on how critical the job is. So as example, if you are checking for a doctor job or a nurse, you need to be sure 100% that this person is certified. It has the required certification, and you need to be sure that the certification is valid and correct. So you do a reference check to all kinds of levels. A reference check could also include security reference check if it is required based on the kind of job. When you pass the reference checks, you go to the final evaluation. Usually there will be more than, let's say we have 2 vacancies and we still have 3-4 candidates which are suitable. So you do a final evaluation to select the best of the bests. You give a job offers. So if the job offer is rejected, you then go to the next selected candidate. And you give something named tentative job offer. And we need to differentiate between the universal methodology of this and whatever applied in your organization or in your place. So what is common universally that you give tentative job offer. So tentative job offer, it is a conditional job offer. That means I offer you this kind of job with these details and with this compensation details if you pass the background investigation and the physical examination. So this is a tentative job offer. It mentions that these are the details, but you need to pass these kind of level stages. Whenever you pass the background investigation and the physical examination, which is a more detailed kind of medical check, and then you get the final job offer, which is the official job offer with the without conditions, and which will be followed by the contract. As we explained, the contingent or the temporary or the conditional job offer will have job offer depends on the certain results. As example, always think about the players when they join a new team. They actually give them an offer to join the team, but there is a stage of medical test because it's very crucial, very important for the player being very healthy and that his body is ready to do to join the team. So they give them a conditional offer based on passing a medical examination, and then they give them the official employment offer, which is a standard letter that clarify the state of terms and of the job, establish a reasonable acceptance deadline. It shows that you need to confirm by this date. It is followed by employment contract. Actually, the employment contract is an agreement between the organization and the employee that explain the employment relationship. For sure, in the more detailed body of knowledge, we will discuss each of these documents in details and what are the components of each document in details. Now, after the new employee joins the company, there is orientation and onboarding. So this is new terms. Mostly, maybe it's a new terms for you if you are new to HR. And most of the people mix between the terms of orientation and onboarding. So the orientation is actually the initial first 2 days or 3 days or 1 day or 1 week based on the organization, where you do one-time event. You introduce the company to the new employee. You explain the organization structure, the culture, the mission, the vision, the values. So it's a general introduction about the company to the new employee. This is the orientation. Now, when we say onboarding, and we have departments actually managing the onboarding process, the onboarding is a long-term process. It is actually moving someone from outside the organization to be part of the organization gradually. So you give, you share more information with him, you give more trust, you give more access to the data, you let him understand, the organization more time, through the time, so it can reach up to 18 months in some cases. Okay, so this is the difference between the new terms. The orientation have usually two sections. And we are talking about the orientation now. Okay, so the orientation will start usually by HR, the HR part, which is the general orientation. It gives the general information about the policy, the HR policies, the benefits, it completes the paperwork if there is a contract or an agreement, like non-disclosure agreement is not signed, it gets signed. So it explains the organization structure, who are the major people in the organization, the managers, what is the culture in the organization, the values, and overall general information. Then we move to the department orientation, where usually the HR practitioners takes the new employee to his line manager by the end of the general orientation, and the manager will start introducing the more related information to the department of the new employee. So he introduced him to his co-workers. He gives him an idea about the kind of the job he will be working. He will enhance or let the employee knows what are the department objectives, the goals of the department. So what we are all working for, and it explained how his role contribute to achieving these goals. So this is the overall orientation. While in the onboarding, and it is the long-term process, it has different kind of progress towards the time. So now we are explaining the general orientation expectation around the world globally. Usually prior to the first day, the orientation, the onboarding starts prior to the first day. So there is a stage of the onboarding starts before the employee joins the floor, which is the time when you prepare the place for the new employee to join. So prepare the office, prepare the place, send the welcome message, communicate the IT and the logistics department to prepare whatever required for the new employee. So this is part of the onboarding. In the first day, it focused on, and in the first day, the onboarding turns to orientation. So orientation is part of the onboarding now. It starts with in the first day. So orientation as a part of the onboarding. It gives, as we explained, the information about the mission, vision, values, policies, and other information. In the first week, it ensures managerial involvement. It sets the performance expectation, assign meaningful work. Now you start get some work. It's not the full kind of duties you are expected to do, but you start to have some work to do. Now, in the first 90 days, it has, you identify now whatever training you require. So if there is a system in your departments, you need to be trained on to be ready to use it. You will get this training in the first 90 days. If there is some information about our customers, our clients, you need to get a training for, you get this training, and you start getting feedback, and you start actually the kind of feedback where you get your manager or trainer feedback, and you get the chance to give your feedback also, so that it is mutual movement towards more onboarding, towards completing the onboarding process. In the first 6 months now, in the final stage of the onboarding, you start to recognize the employee contribution. So you start to tell the employee what is the areas where he is doing very good and what are the areas which he needs to improve. And you start to create an employee development plan. So you identify what are the areas or what potential could have the employees, and you start to identify the career planning for the employee. So this is overall the onboarding stages. Now, to measure how successful the recruitment and selection in an organization, we have matrices, so the same concept which we discussed before. In HR, in order to measure the performance, there is always ratios or matrices which measures the performance and compare that to the benchmark or the best practice related to your business or the field where you are working for. The common quality of hiring, measures are time to hire, the quality of hires, so how their performance is after hiring, the recruiting efficiency, so how every recruiter is efficient comparing to the others. So we compare the recruiters to each other, and the new hires turnover is one of the good indicators. So if we are hiring people and they are leaving in the first 90 days or first 1 year, that means we are not hiring good fit for the organization. So this is a good indicator also for the quality of recruitment. The source yield. So the concept source yield is, it does mean that every source of recruitment, being internal or external, how it helps me to achieve my recruitment goals. So I take as example LinkedIn or Facebook and check how many candidates I get from this source and how many I select actually from these candidates. So whenever there is higher ratios of selection, and we name it the yield of the source. So yield is whatever I get out of that. So if I'm getting to select more people from a certain source, this does mean that it has higher yield than other sources, which is more useful for me in my recruitment process. So this is an overall idea about the recruitment, selection, onboarding and orientation. And we said that the onboarding is the long-term process and the orientation is one event. And when we discussed some ratios of the quality of recruitment. We move now to the compensation and benefit. I just need to check if we have any question. Okay, we have a question is, what is the qualifications? What qualifications are required for job?
Sorry for interrupting you, but we have a question in the QA section and also in the chat box.
Sure, I'll check both. Thank you.
Thank you.
So what's the qualifications required for a job? So actually, as we said, if you are talking about job specifications, which we discussed, it includes qualifications, educational qualifications and certifications, knowledge, skills, abilities. So all this together, it is the kind of job specifications. So when we say qualifications, I identify qualifications as the knowledge, skills, and abilities required, plus the education and whatever required to the job. It is different based on the kind of job. And the major answer, where you get the answer for this, is the job analysis. So you do the job analysis, you identify through the job analysis what kind of qualifications and knowledge and skills and abilities required for a job. So you always find the answer of your question in the job analysis report, which comes out to be job description and job specification and job identification form in your job posting and in your documentation in the organization. I hope I answered the question as intended to be. Let me check the other question. The Q&A one is done. In the chat, we have one question in Q&A section. I didn't find other question.
In the chat box, Mr.
In the chat box, I can only see. Okay, maybe it's an old one. I will check before. What are the opportunities for the? Okay, what are the opportunities for the HR refresher? This is the question.
Yes,
I think this is the question by Nisreen. Thank you for the question. The opportunities are endless for HR professionals. It makes a lot of difference that when you think about opportunities in different kind of organizations, and the big organizations, let's say in the medium and big kind of organizations, you have opportunity to join the human resources department in different kind of sections. So you may be an HR generalist, which actually helps in doing many functions, and usually this kind of job is in smaller companies. until using to a very specialized kind of roles in the HR. It could be in the HR operations and as HR operations a specialist and then supervisor and manager and so on. It could be in organization development. It could be the compensation and benefit specialist, recruitment and selection for sure. All of these are opportunities for human resources. And actually, whenever you are more professional and you are certified, you will reach to a different kind of organization where they value the concept of specialization. So this kind of jobs will be compensated very well, and you will build your career moving forward in the HR sections. So it's not necessary that you will be knowledgeable in all the HR areas. No, these kind of certification preparation will give you the base, which you need to know from all the areas. But moving forward, after finishing your certification path, you can move to be more specialized in one area or another in human resources. Okay, moving to the compensation and benefits part in our body of knowledge. Now, in the compensation and benefit is actually the part of the financial and non-financial objects or reward being given to the employee as a reward for his contribution to the job and as a compensation for that. In order to identify the salaries and identify my salary scale and my salary and my grading system inside the organization, I need to consider some terms and some conditions. First of all, I need to consider the legal aspects in my country or the place I live in. So there is laws and regulations usually manages the broad concepts of the compensation and benefit in every country. There is the concept of minimum wage. So usually countries puts a minimum wage, so you cannot pay less than this wage. So whenever you decide your salaries, you need to consider that you will not pay less than the minimum wage. The overtime payment is usually managed by the rules and regulations. So, and the labor laws will tells you how you pay for people working over and above the average working hours. As example, if the average working or the regular working hours is 40 hours per week, so every extra hour will be treated as will be paid as 1.5 hour rate or value or salary for every hour. As example, it could be different kind of rules in different countries. Equal pay for equal work. So equal pay for equal work, it reflects the diversity and respecting the different kinds of gender, different nationalities. So you should some rules and regulations force the organizations to not differentiate between the gender, as example. So you cannot find two people working the same kind of work and they have very high difference unless it is justifiable that this different person have more experience, more certifications. So it's related to the job, but it's not related to nationality, as example, or race or gender. So the rules it governs this part. The paid leaves also it could be by law that you need to give the employees a paid leaves monthly, annually. So as example, it should be 21 paid leaves per year. The workers' compensation insurance in some companies or in some countries, actually, the compensation insurance is a mandate by the government. That means, what does compensation insurance means? That means whenever you lost your job because of the job accident or because of the job itself, there is an insurance company which will cover your salary in such cases. So I think this is مثل مخاطر التأمين على الحياة اللي موجودة مخاطر أو التأمين على مخاطر العمل. This kind of work hazards insurance available even in Saudi Arabia. The unemployment compensation. So unemployment compensation is also kind of insurance in some countries given to the employees if they lost their job until they find another job. The government will be paying some compensation for them to cover this period until they find another job. So these are the common laws and regulations. Some other laws and regulations related to pensions, and pensions is the income individuals received during the retirement. So usually the pensions and the retirement payments have a complicated rules and regulations in the countries. So it's not I cannot explain one kind of pension program. There is a lot of different kinds of programs in every country for retirement. And now the benefits also in some countries is a minimum requirement by the law. As example, the medical insurance as a benefit, it could be required for all the employees and their families in some countries. So it's a minimum requirement by the law for the benefits. Taxation also is very major area of regulations and laws in many countries where the tax is being deducted from the employee's salary by the employer and being paid to the government based on the compensation regulations and the laws. The financial and non-financial total reward. So you need to understand the terms financial and non-financial rewards or financial and non-financial compensation. So whenever somebody do a job or perform a job, he should expect two kinds of compensation. The first compensation is the financial one, and financial means whatever financially or monetary, or you can get it as a cash, or whatever has a value of cash. Okay, so the direct pay, the salaries is for sure a financial compensation. The incentives or the bonus or whatever comes under the performance-based incentives or payments comes to the employees as a motivation for them to do better is kind of financial compensation. The benefits is also considered financial compensation because it is it's a value of money to get the benefits. Now the non-financial compensation, it includes the job content and the job environment. So whenever you enhance your job environment, whenever you give a better job, do a better job design, so the job is more challenging and at the same time doable and achievable, and it includes removing the boring kind of job. It includes supporting the people towards achieving their goals, giving recognition inside the organization. All this job content and job environment enhancement in the job is kind of the non-financial compensation for a job. In order to determine my pay or to identify how I pay inside my organization, there is actually 4 factors I need to consider. And these factors starts in sequence. And again, why I'm doing this is to identify or to decide how should be my pay strategy inside my organization. The first level of doing the pay or identifying the pay is starting with the external factor. The external factor is to check the market. So what is the market factors? What is available in the market? What governs my kind of job in the market? Is it unioned or not? Is there a union supporting the jobs in the market? Is there a geographic pay differentials? That means if somebody is working in remote area, usually in the market gets higher salary. Is there a governmental regulations that for this kind of job there is higher minimum level of salaries? Is there a special kind of benefit I need to give for this kind of job? Is there a social expectations? Social expectations, that means, as example, a doctor or a nurse or a dentist or let's say a military employee usually in some societies have the expectation to get paid higher because of the value of these people in their societies. So you need to understand the general external factors affects your decision of defining the salary of a specific job. Then you move to the organizational factor. Now, after you finish the external factors, you move to the organizational factor and you check your kind of organization comparing to other organizations. So the industry you are working in, what is the level of salaries inside the industry? What is the profitability and the ability to pay? Is it that your business have a high profit and you have a good margin to pay? So whenever you paid higher, you will hire better talented people, and you increase as well your profitability, the size of your organization, the value of the job contributed to the company. So all this together, and beside one major important part, which is what is your philosophy to the organization. Now, the owners of the organization, the board of directors of the organization, what is their philosophy about the pay? What does that mean? Now, some organizations comes to the market and decides they say, we will pay higher than the market. We will pay similar to the market. We will pay less than the market. So there is a philosophy they are following, and they believe that it makes sense based on their strategy, based on whatever they are targeting, the markets they are targeting. So this kind of thinking, that the methodology of the management is affecting actually the organizational factor. Now, moving from the organizational factor to the job factor. Okay, now I understand. Now I have broad decision, or which is the external factor. I have more specific understanding of what kind of pay I will be when I move to the organizational factors. Now we will say, okay, so I will pay similar to the market as example. Okay, so inside my organization, there is different jobs, there is different levels of people. How I will differentiate between these people? Who will get paid higher salaries than others? So based on what? Based on the job factors, and the job factors actually comes from the job analysis and the job, design itself. So you need to consider what skills required for the job, the responsibilities, the efforts, and the work conditions. And based on that, you compare the jobs and you consider the job factor. After moving to the job itself, maybe within the job, there is differentiation between the people who are doing the job. So I could have higher compensation for people giving higher productivity, higher performance, have more experience, more senior, have more potential to the company. It has personal preferences. So inside the job itself, as you see, as example, you will see 5 HR specialists. One of them or 2 of them may be getting reasonably higher salary than others. Maybe because they are more experienced, have long time in the company. Maybe because of their performance experience in the previous years was higher, so their salaries is increasing. Maybe they have certification, as we are preparing for a certification, which gives them higher need in the market, which gives them higher salaries when we hire them. So these are all the factors we consider while doing the recruitment. Okay, moving forward to the now we identified the philosophy of doing the job rating and the job and the leveling. Now, how we build our job grades and pay ranges. It's actually a very important topic we discuss in details in our preparation course. But what you need to know now that there is the job grading is a grouping similar jobs in one grade. So in order to identify the pay scale and know what kind of pay compensation overall, monetary and non-monetary, you need to weight the jobs. So every job have a weight, and then you group jobs with the similar weight in one grade. We name this a grade, and we identify minimum pay for the grade, maximum pay for the grade, and we identify the jobs inside this grade. So the pay range. So pay range for every grade is the difference between the highest and lowest salaries being paid for the grade. So this is the general concept of the pay grade and the pay ranges. And as I said, much detailed discussion in the preparation courses. Now, giving the merit increment and the salary increases in the companies is actually based on different kind of methodology. We are discussing the merit pay here as example of that. And this example shows how we differentiate with the annual increment based on the performance. So as example, if we have 10 people in the such department where we are giving the merit pay, we are considering that we are giving the top one out of 10, the highest level of increment, and the increment could be considered as a fixed increment for this kind of performance, or a range which differs based on the organization overall performance. So the concept of merit pay is a pay based on performance. Okay, so it's a periodical evaluation. I have performance, and then I distribute the people in 5 levels as example. Maybe it could be 10, 5, 3 levels based on your methodology of doing the performance management. And after that, I identify the fixed amount of increment or a range of increment for people based on their performance rating in the organization. The bonuses is part of the compensation as well, and the bonuses do not raise the base pay, and it is very important, characteristic for the bonus you need to keep in mind. The bonus is one-time payment or one lump sum payment, and it is not affecting the salary component itself. So it is separate payment. It must be re-earned each year so that we name it annual bonus. It is usually annually, but it does not require to be paid if it is not based on the organization performance, for sure. So the bonus plans also provides greater discretion than formal merit pay plans for executives to reward employees. So it is another tool actually of rewarding the employees, and it helps the managers to motivate people toward better performance. Sometimes bonuses are not tied to performance. So in some cases, organization may share bonuses to all people in a fixed amount. As example, Ramadan salary in some organizations is kind of bonus not related to performance, but in most of the cases, bonuses are also related to performance. Variable pay as a percentage of payroll typically is 10%. So usually, typically around the world, when they consider the bonus, they consider a range of 10% of the overall annual pay of the employee. So when we say 10% of the annual pay of the employee is almost a salary and one point something salary as an average, as a bonus for the employee. So it's 10% of the annual salary, and has been increasing for past 2 decades because of the inflation in the markets. Now, different kind of compensation is the group and team incentive. Group and team incentive is actually another kind of compensation being paid to the team when they perform their job together as a bonus for the team. So what is the advantage of being a group or team incentive? That it reduces the need for direct supervision. Now let's think about a team who are doing a product together. So everyone depends on the other. If you are giving the incentive to the team as a whole, everyone will support each other. So even if someone started to be lazy and not doing his job, the other parts of the team will encourage him to do the job better, because if they did not perform well together, they will lose the group or team incentive. So it helps them to do that. The flow of work and flexibility in job assignments are greatly facilitated. So as example, in illness cases, if somebody is sick and not able to do their job, the other parts of the team will cover him, because they don't want the performance to be lower and the team results to be lower. The disadvantage of the team incentive that group incentives provide limited motivation to produce more. What does that mean? If I am always getting only group incentive, I will not be motivated to do extra work. So whenever we achieve the goal of the group, no one will try to do extra work, because if you did extra work and the other parts of the team are not doing extra, it is not helpful. It's not motivating for me, because the recognition will be for the whole group. It's not individual recognition. So the group incentives are most useful in the jobs which are independent, and the output of the group can be counted. A group is small. Think about like a bakery. When somebody is doing a pizza, and there is a team of people, one will do the preparation for the pizza, one will put the ingredients, and one will put this in the oven. So they all depending on each other. If somebody stopped to work, the others will not be able to work. So it's a group work. In this kind of job, the group incentive is very efficient and useful. Organization-wide programs is the compensation which is paid for the organization level or the corporate level. So it's kind of bonus based on the organization level, based on two concepts: profit sharing or gain sharing. So profit sharing is when the company have outstanding profits, higher than what's usual, and they need to share some of these profits with their employees. So this is a wide on the company level because of profit sharing. Now the gain sharing is on the opposite. If you are improving your productivity or reducing your cost, so you are gaining some extra margin, not because of more profit. It's because of actually new ideas and new enhancement in the operations, which increased your productivity and reduced your cost. And also this is a gain sharing kind of project. So whoever worked on this kind of enhancement for the job will get a part of this gain sharing compensation. Moving toward the HR development and the retention. So by this, we covered the compensation and benefit basics and concepts overall. And it all shows indicators of what can be more detailed, discussing the preparation courses. I will check if you have any question here. I don't think so. Okay. Moving forward in the HR development and retention module. So HR and the HR development and retention, it includes how you evaluate the people, evaluate their performance, and how you train them, and the methodology of the training used in your while doing the job in the human resources. We started with the training, and the training refers to the acquisition of a specific skills or knowledge. Training programs attempt to teach trainees how to perform particular activities. So it's a basic concept. Strategically, what training helps is to usually, when I decide the kind of training I do in my organization, it should even be linked to my strategy or enhance my operations. So I should not decide on the training program without considering these two aspects. So even it is linked to my strategic objectives, or it is increasing the operational. Maybe we have some struggling in doing some operational kind of job, and we require training to enhance the performance, to improve the efficiency. So these kind of training we are considered when we say training in the context of the training inside the organization. So there is two major well-known kind of training: the on-the-job training and the off-the-job training. As it by the naming, the on-the-job training, that means when you have training being done within the place of work, so inside the working place, versus doing the training outside the work. So what is the differences? no specific space or equipment in the on-the-job training. So usually you do the training in the place of the work itself. It's a practical kind of training because you are being trained on the job itself. So it's practical. You are doing the job while you are learning. It provides immediate transfer of training. It allows the employees to participate, to practice while they are training, and it allows the trainees to associate with their future coworkers. So whenever you are learning inside the job, you are still meeting the people you will be working with. You are doing the job itself on the workplace itself. But on the other hand, the on-the-job training allows the executives or the people who are in higher levels to go out of the box, to meet other executives, to meet other managers, to meet other people, other subject matter experts from other organizations, and live with them, hear other opinions. It provides resource people and resource material such as faculty members or other executive, new books, new knowledge, new trends in the market they can get from the off-the-job training. And they challenge the executives to increase their development and motivate them to improve. Usually when you always do the training inside the organization, there is a limit of kind of training is being repeated again and again. But when you go externally, you start to see the other organizations and other people and the knowledge and the training level they reach to, and it challenges you to improve yourself to reach to that place. So there is benefits for each kind, and there is much details to be discussed in this area. Now going toward more operational kind of preparing the place for training. Now, as a training specialist inside the HR organization, you will be requested to arrange for the training event. So you need to reserve the place for doing the training. And there is different kind of places to do the training. It is based on the kind of training or the kind of session is taking place. So it's an overview of different kind. This is a banquet style, whereas people have gather in small groups. So usually this is prepared for small discussions being done on every table, and then they share it with the overall. So whenever there is a groups have discussions, they will use this banquet style. The classroom style also is usually used whenever you have an instructor and you need tables in front of you to write notes. Okay, so usually one person is speaking. There is no discussion happening here. It's a mostly lecture, and somebody is writing. Similar to the theater style, but in the theater style, it's only listening. There's no notes to take. Usually this is in the speeches and the big events where somebody is talking to a crowded people, and so on and so forth. You can go through these kinds of styles of training rooms, and actually it's based on what kind of training is this. Is it somebody who's giving information, instruction, or is it kind of sharing experience like case studies or other kind of training methodologies? And the performance management, performance management is a major area of human resources management. You are expected as an HR expert to facilitate the performance management process inside your organization. You are expected to give the awareness to the technical departments of how to do the performance and what is the performance cycle overall. So what is performance management? First of all, the performance management is the process of improving job performance through performance planning, performance evaluation, mentoring, and continuous feedback. So it is actually a long process. It starts from defining the goals and the objectives, and then going through the journey and giving the feedback to the employees and tells them whether they are doing well or not, if they are moving towards the correct track or not. you always keep to give feedback all the way until you reach to the final end of the cycle, where you create the performance report, which shows actually the areas where a good job is being done and the areas of improvement. And based on the areas of improvement, you prepare something named performance improvement plans. So performance improvement plans, it tells the employees that, okay, you are doing very well in 1, 2, 3, while you need to improve in 4 and 5. And let's sit and agree on the performance improvement plan. And you need to stick with this plan, and we will discuss and see your progress against this plan in future. So as we discussed, it starts with setting the goals, and the goals should be SMART goals, should be specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. It should involve both the manager and the individual in setting the goals. So it should not come like manager tells you this is your objectives, this is your target and the goal for your job. No, you need to sit with him and you need to agree together. And whenever you are prepared, you are setting your goals, you need to be flexible enough. So as example, while you are setting the goal, if the employee is telling that this is not achievable because of 1, 2, 3, and if he is reasonable and if it is the feedback is reasonable, you have to be flexible enough to modify the goal and to modify the target so that it is more achievable, and so that you can, through the way, negotiate and you can discuss the progress, and you can say that we agreed together on the goals. And so you move forward in the performance reviews. You give reviews continuously, so continuous feedback. It should be specific feedback. You should tell what exactly is going okay and what is not. And there should be at least one face-to-face conversation between the manager and the year in a year. So at least one long meeting where you discuss all the performance and what went well and what's not, and you agree on the performance improvement plan. So there is several kinds of performance evaluation. So the methods of performance evaluation, and in the preparation courses, we will discuss 7 and 8 or more than 8 kinds of methods. And the most common kind of the performance evaluation is the MBO, which is the managing by objectives kind of performance evaluation method. So managing by objectives, which is very common in the modern companies, and the companies where they try to link the performance to the performance results to the objectives. So it reflects that whenever we agree on objectives, I will evaluate you based on the objectives, not based on other aspects not related to the objectives. So the performance method, where the manager and the employee mutually identify common goals, which are the objectives, and the skills necessary to accomplish this objectives. The objectives should be aligned with the department objectives and then the organizational objectives for sure. Most common and effective assessment methods of this kind of methodology is the behaviorally based appraisal method. So behaviorally based appraisal method is the method which includes the 2 kinds of evaluation. So you evaluate the performance and you evaluate the behavior. So it's behaviorally based appraisal method. So based on your behavior and achieving your goals, you are being evaluated, and much more details in the performance evaluation methods to be discussed while preparing for the APHRI and PHRI certification and SPHRI certification. It's a lot of information you can gain in different kinds of performance evaluation, and then you can select the suitable one to your organization. And this kind of knowledge which we are discussing is not only actually for preparing for a certification. It's very useful and handy tools to be used in your organization itself while managing the performance, the training, the recruitment and selection, the HR operations. So all of these are very handy tools in your HR career, wherever you are. Now, moving to the employee relations part. So in employee relations, when we say employee relations, we think about employee relations between each other and their relations with management. Usually there is two parties of the employee relations. There is the employee side and the management side. And there is systems to govern or to manage their relations between each other. So employee relations refers to the working relationship between the employee and the employers, or the employer and the employees, and encompasses the rights of each party, how decisions are made, and how problems are resolved. In European companies, this function is also called relations or industrial labor relations or industrial relations. So whenever you go to labor relations, you always consider unions in the countries where unions are there. So it's related to defending the rights of the employees, or speaking on behalf of the employee, supporting the employee if there is some cases against the employee in an organization. So because of that, the union will get involved in the employee relations cases. So employee relations processes provides a fair and equitable working relationship for employers and employees. Always think about employers and employees, because the problems which employees causes while doing their job, it will affect the employers. And the unfair treatment and against policy treatment from employers to the employees will affect the employees. Because of that, this is employee relations. It is to manage and control the rights and the behavior of each party. Usually, the system used to govern or to capture the employee part who is claiming against the employer is the governance system. So the governance system is the system used to help and protect the employees from the unfair and targeted actions, provide with a due process of handling the employee complaints. So it is a full system where employees can raise their complaints when they feel that they are treated unfairly, they are treated in a way that affects their rights in the company. And on the other side, there is discipline system. And the discipline system is the system used to protect the employers from the problems employees may create inside the organization. So the discipline system is the system govern and help the employer to take actions against the employees when they misbehave or do some violations inside the organization. Now, in the discipline system, you need to understand that there is levels of taking disciplinary actions against violations. So the progressive discipline is a concept under the discipline systems where the organization or the employer will go step by step in taking discipline action when a penalty happens in the organization. The actions should be related to how harsh the violation is, how it's critical inside the organization, and this is not opinion-wise. It is based on the code of conduct and on the discipline system itself, which shows that based on your violation, you will get this kind of penalty. If you repeated your violation, you will get this kind of penalty. If the penalty you are doing is related to integrity and very zero tolerance kind of penalty, so you will get this kind of discipline action. So what are the levels of discipline actions? Usually it starts from verbal warning. So the verbal warning is something used usually for minor offensive actions. And it is a verbal discussion, like if somebody is as example, is using bad language constantly without intent, is doing a horseplay, like doing a lot of voice inside the workplace. So the minor kind of actions, and you want to stop this kind of behavior, you can give a verbal warning to the employee that stop this action. This will lead to a further action if you continue to do the same kind of violation. Then you go to verbal reprimand. Verbal reprimand is a supervisor should make a written note. So we name it verbal reprimand because it's still verbal. It will not be recorded in the employee file, but it is actually documented. It's verbal and documented through an email that we discussed this act, your behavior, and there should be an email or documentation that we discussed this wrong behavior and that you should not repeat this. And supervisor should give reprimand in private, not to be emotional and avoid sarcasm. And so keep a face. They say keep a face. So when you do your action, you should be considering that you are doing a constructive action. So you need to build a relationship with the employee. So try to avoid further actions. So try to give this in private unless that he's still repeating the same action. So we started with a verbal warning. We moved to the verbal reprimand. And now we will use the written reprimand. Now the written reprimand is, and again, when we are discussing this kind of actions, do not compare to your company. We are talking about the body of knowledge as identified by HRCI. So whenever you are preparing to the exam, you need to know these kind of level of disciplinary actions. While it could differ in your country, in your place, it could be different names, different wording. But for the sake of the exam, when you are preparing for the exam, you need to know these terms. So as we said, we started with the verbal warning, verbal reprimand, and then written reprimand. And the written reprimand is something, is a report, describes the problem and the solution, and it is actually kept in the employee's file. Both should sign this report, and if the employee refused to sign, still the supervisor can describe that the employee refused and he can sign on behalf of him. And a copy of this will be sent to the employee file, and the other copy will be sent to the union or Naqaba, the place to keep in his file. Now, the level higher than that is the suspension. The suspension is the employee still failing of correcting his behavior, or if he's doing a very major violation. The next course of action is the suspension, when the employee is stopped of coming to work, with stopping his compensation, and it will affect his, and it is also kept as a record in his employee file. The last action and the last step of the disciplinary system is the discharge, as when you doing a discharge of the employee as a final step of the disciplinary process. It's terminating his employment because of repeating of the violation based on the code of conduct. Some manager make the mistake of waiting too long to terminate a problem employee. So if you took the procedure, and if the employees keep repeating his violation and he's a problem maker, it's more healthy for the whole team to take your action correctly and on time. Do not delay that. So it's good to be a human person, but keeping a problem maker in a team will make the whole team feeling not well, and maybe he will try to get more people to the negative area, or the negative feeling, the negative way of thinking, which will destroy the team. Now there is kind of violations related to unsatisfactory performance. When we as example, you got an email or a complaint from the manager that my employee is not performing well. You need to understand the reason of that. So because this is an input, this is an information you are getting. So the body of knowledge identifies a diagnosing tool to know and understand why this unsatisfactory performance is happening. So you need to go through this. It's like a doctor or a nurse when you go and they start asking, do you have fever? Do you have pain in some place? So they will ask you diagnosing questions to know where is the problem actually. So we start with the condition, the unsatisfactory performance. Is it low quality or quantity? And then when we identify what kind of performance issue, we start to ask questions. Is the employee have a proper skills and abilities? I mean, the first question, is it a problem of the employee profile that the employee himself is not prepared for this job, so we selected wrong person? If it is no, that the employee does not have the skills required, that means we have a job placement problem. That means we have to report to recruitment team that you are selecting wrong people. This person does not have the appropriate skills and abilities. If the employee still have these properties, so we ask the other question, is it that the employee did not have adequate job knowledge? So he have the skills, but nobody trained him to work in the system available inside our organization, or nobody gave him enough training to understand the process followed inside the organization. So if this is the problem, that means we have a training problem. So we report that we have a training problem. If no, the employee still got the training required and he has the knowledge, we start to understand, is it because of the job structure? That means the job itself have a lot of duties and responsibilities, so that there is no time for the employee to put priorities, and it is a problem with the job design. If yes, this is the problem, that means is the employee job is well structured? If it's not well structured, that means I need to review this job structure and redesign the job. If still yes, now we move to the motivation part. We need to discuss what kind of things motivates the employee to improve his performance. Maybe the job which I am the job is being like all the people who are doing good and bad is being motivated in the same way, or they get the same incentive. So we need to put more kind of system to enhance or to motivate people who are giving better performance. Maybe we have to put penalties for people who are doing low performance, so that we encourage them to improve. So we identify what kind of motivation needed for the person. If we still believe that all this is prepared and we have a proper motivation system, and still this employee is not suitable, so that means we need to get rid of this employee because he is not suitable, and we've already done our diagnosing and we reached that the unsatisfactory performance is actually related to the person itself. It's not a problem in our set of managing the job inside the organization. Moving to the organization exit interview. So the exit interview benefits, for sure, whenever you have exit interview, you have a very precious information source. So you identify the key area creating turnover. You will hear the reasons of turnover, and then you start to understand what's going on, why people are leaving the organization. It tracks the employee perception of the company while they are leaving. It retains some employees while you are doing exit interview. When you feel that this employee is very valuable for the organization and we should not let him go, so you start to give him a counter offer to stay. It's a chance to discuss with the employee whether he can stay or not. It improves the feedback on the services provided by HR, by recruitment team, and still it gives the leaving employee that the company actually is concerned with his opinion. So it will give him positive, belief about the company whenever he goes out, when he speaks, that the company still have interest in my opinion, and the departing employee is made to feel valuable for his or her feedback and opinion. So exit interview is a very important source of information for any organization. The employee engagement is a very important concept. So employee engagement, as a definition, refers to the degree which the employee is committed to their jobs. So how willing the employee is to remain, to stay with the organization, how you are engaged with your job, how you feel happy and energetic when you wake up in the morning going to the job, and how you help your people around you. So you can see it in the people. When you see somebody who is engaged, you will see and this is the engaged employee characteristics. You will see a high level of energy. You will see him dedicated. He has a sense of determination and enthusiasm. He is deeply encouraged and focused on the job, and he's trying to help people around him. So this is the characteristics of the engaged employee. Now there is disengaged employees. There is two kinds of disengaged employees. There is this negative and positive. The negative disengaged employee, who is the person who is disengaged, but he's not discussing that. So he's just sitting, doing his job. He's not happy, but he's not keep talking that I'm not happy, this is a bad job. So he's not giving a negative vibes around him. The positive disengaged, and we say positive not in a positive way. Positive disengaged, that means he is disengaged, and he is keep telling people that he is disengaged and that this organization is not good, and keep talking. And this kind of person will increase the disengagement level in the organization. So we need to identify these kind of people and try to resolve their problems and find out if they are just trying to destroy the image of the organization. It makes a lot of difference. The last part of our body of knowledge for today's session is the health, safety, and security. Not in all the organizations these functions are under HR. It can be managed by separate departments. In the body of knowledge of HRCI, the health, safety, and security management is part of the HR scope. So it actually has the lowest grades in the certification. You need to know about these areas, and it helps you. To me, to some people, it is an area where the grades are low, so they do not concentrate. I believe that these areas of knowledge, because it is very common sense and basic, you can have some trusted or some grades which you believe that you can get them easily, because the body of knowledge here is easy, is not very complicated. So what are the areas discussed here? In the safety part, they start with risk management definition. So risk is everywhere. You need to understand risks to avoid risks. So the new concept is identifying risks. So risk management refers to the process of assessing and ideally measuring risk and developing strategies to protect the financial interests of the company, including safety, worker compensation, unemployment insurance, security, loss prevention, or any kind of risks inside the organization. So first of all, you need to identify the risks. Whenever you identify your risks, you start to take actions to avoid these risks. Now, on the other hand, the safety and health programs. Safety and health programs is very important in every organization. In small organizations, these kind of activities could be assigned to external companies to do that. It is the responsibility of each employer to provide a place of employment that is free from recognized hazards. So it is legal and ethical responsibility of every employer to assure that the work environment is as much as possible empty from the recognized hazards. And they always use the recognized hazards, because sometimes there could be some hazards which are not recognized, which happens in disasters, in cases where you will not be able to identify that. So the effective safety programs, management support is part of the safety program. So in order to work on the safety programs, you need the management supports. You need to give training related to safety inside the company, like the first aid training and the Good Samaritan laws. The Good Samaritan laws, which introduce to the people how they deal when they see somebody in a risk, in a safety risk, how they deal with that. I mean, as example, if somebody is trying to help someone in a wrong way, maybe he will affect him more negative than helping him. So there is rules of how to deal with people in such kind of risks. The communication campaigns can be effective safety tools. The recognition for people who are concerned with the safety programs, the incentives, and creating safety committees inside the organization can be also a helpful way for the safety programs. The employee wellness programs is very, trending these days. Having more and more employee wellness programs to support. It identifies medical conditions which can be treated, encourages healthy lifestyle. It helps employees and dependents cope with the various problems and daily life, like the concept of work-life balance. Consists of one or more of the wellness components listed below. So, I mean, when you are talking about employee wellness programs, it's how employee feeling well, health-wise, mind-wise, psychologically, how he is feeling well with his family, how he's feeling well, because whenever the employee wellness is higher, whenever he is feeling more healthy, have more life to do work-life balance, he will produce more. So there is different kinds of programs to help employees in improving their wellness. It starts from disease management, fitness programs, health risk appraisal, personal wellness profiles, screening. Some companies will bring medical companies to inside their organization to do initial screening for their employees and give them indicators that they need to improve their health. Smoking cessation or stopping smoking in some organization, non-smoking environment. Telephonic wellness services, so you have a hotline you can call and claim your personal issues sometimes, and they will give you support. Work-life balance programs where you consider giving the employees their space so that it is more balanced between their work and life. As example, in some organizations, whenever the working time is ended, they will close all the premises. No one's supposed to stay after working hours. Everyone should go. The weekend is very respected. No one should call employee during the weekend because this is his lifetime, and his work time is for work. So it is very respectful, these kind of work-life balance. Now in the security, there should be a corporate security. In the security, there is physical and non-physical kind of security risks. So we need to identify the physical, and when we are talking about physical, we are talking about facility, machinery, material, computers as a computer, as a hardware. And when we are talking about non-physical security risks, it's like the possible danger for non-tangible assets, such as the corporate data, the consumer data, the personnel data, the intellectual property, and all of kind of proper risks which need to be saved. Now, the physical risk prevention practices for the physical, sorry, for the physical kind of risks, there should be an actions. Some examples of the practices is implementing and supporting security measures. So you have security measures, you implement access control, you measure the risks of the places, and then you select the suitable security measure. Establish hiring practices that include background checks, so you will not hire people with a history which can affect the security of the company. They have a violence history or such kind of history. Establish policy for the theft and fraud, so that you let people know that there is consequences of their when they do such kind of theft and fraud. Educate the employees about the fraud and develop financial auditing programs so that you keep doing audit for your financials and control your financials. For the protecting the intellectual properties, you can identify what need to be protected. So first of all, the intellectual properties are non-physical, so you need to know what are valuable for you, what information, what data, what kind of intellectual property is important for you. When you identify that, you use a confidentiality and non-disclosure agreement. So everyone should sign these agreements to avoid sharing any knowledge outside. Have employee safeguard company secrets. The secrets of the company should be kept in the safeguards or with a person who is very honest, and it should not be discussed in public. And avoid displaying or discussing secrets in public places, so that you control these kind of security. By this, I've reached the end of the body of knowledge expected to be covered in this free session. I hope this gave some add value for you all. I will check the questions here. Okay, I have a question in selection part. Sometimes the candidate passing the interview without making tests. The question is to practice professional HR. Should we create tests to compare between the candidates? I mean, I can put key question to what we discussed, dear Ziad, is the full process. Now, in some cases, the job itself require tests, and to be honest, most of the job require tests. But the tests has different kinds. It could be a very simple test to a very complicated kind of tests. When you are enrolled to the full course, you can see much kind of tests, and you can identify what kind of tests required. And I agree with you with that. When you apply the tests to the people, you can compare people, but still with a structured interview, you still can compare people if the job does not require tests. And the structured interview is kind of interview where you use the same questions, apple to apple, to every candidate, so that you can compare between the candidates. I hope I answered your question. Can we have a copy of the presentation? I think you need to check with the Bakkah management. I think this is a webinar, so I don't think that this is available. You will have all the body of knowledge and everything whenever you are enrolled in one of our preparation sessions. It has a lot of components to support you preparing for the exams. Thank you everyone for attending today's session.
Mr. Muhammad, I'm sorry. I think we have an extra question in the chat box, but above the last one.
I'll go to that question. We have no, I've covered here
From
in the
Ziad.
selection. Ziad, I've answered the question already.
Okay.
This is answered, and the other question from Anas, it is answered as well. Is there any other question?
I think no.
Okay. Okay. By the exams, you mentioned, do you mean the exam that follows the course? No, I'm not referring to the exam follows this course. This is a free course. It's just a knowledge sharing, but the exam is for the preparation for HRCI professional HR courses. You can go to Bakkah website and see all the kind of preparation courses for the HR certification. Thank you so much for your time. You can share any questions or any further interests with Bakkah, and they will give you all the details through email, inshallah. Good luck. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you, Mr. Muhammad. يعطيك ألف عافية.
العفو.
يعطيكم العافية جميعا. سعيدين جدا بحضوركم للسيشن اليوم. بالنسبة للشهادات بإذن الله تعالى راح توصلكم خلال هذا الأسبوع أو الأسبوع القادم إن شاء الله عن طريق الإيميل. حنكون جدا سعيدين بمشاركة شهاداتكم عن طريق لينكد إن وحساباتنا الأخرى على وسائل التواصل الاجتماعي. ولا تنسوا تستفيدوا من البرومو كود المقدم لكم من بكة لدورات الHR، على أمل إن شاء الله نقوم بدورات قريبا. نتمنى لكم تجربة تعليم مثمرة في بكة. مع السلامة وتصبحوا على خير.